everyone taking time out of your day to learn about the American River Bank Foundation and walk through some of the best practices for completing your applications during this grant cycle in 2017. First, let's talk about who's talking to you today. I'm so honored to be here with all of you. I've seen in the chat box some of my dear friends and folks that are doing such phenomenal work in the community. Thank you for all that you do. Introducing myself to those who may not know me yet, I hope to get to know you personally soon. I'm Erika Thompson-Diaz. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Community Engagement here at American River Bank. We have two ways you can reach me via email, either through my direct email with my first initial last name or an email address that you might want to save, and some of you might already have, foundation@americanriverbank.com. We will be sending this deck to everyone, so no need to necessarily scribble this down right away. We'll send it out to everyone, and we're uploading a recorded webinar onto YouTube following our last presentation tomorrow, so that you can go back and watch this at any time. But I'm always available to you via my desk or mobile lines, which are shown here. Let's get right into what we'll be covering today. I will share a little bit about American River Bank. You may or may not know what American River Bank does, who we serve, and the area that we operate within, so we'll share that with you. We'll make sure you know all the foundation resources and how you can find them online. We'll talk about the American River Bank Foundation and its focus, which is key as you begin the application process. Go through all key dates and the 2017 grant cycle, which extends into 2018, and dates you need to be aware of in advance. We'll go through all of the eligibility components, all the restrictions, and the things you need to know about whether or not this grant application process is right for your organization. We'll go through the proposal best practices, the things that we've seen from organizations that really set themselves apart, and tips from organizations who have been grant recipients in the past. After that, we'll go through next steps, and then most importantly, we'll have a Q&A section where you can ask all of the questions that you may have that the presentation may not have covered. We hope we'll do so, but if we don't, there's a time for you to ask as many questions as you like, and certainly always available to you after this webinar today. Let's get right into American River Bank. This map shows the footprint that we serve from a lending perspective. So the blue area is where we offer lending opportunities to businesses in the region. And all of the numbered dots are those where we have a branch location. Our headquarters, you can see there in Rancho Cordova, is shown with a star. And we are a publicly traded company. So a little bit about us there and who we serve. Let's go right into what makes us different. We are, first and foremost, a business bank. Many people don't know the difference between a business bank and those that are serving consumers, but we are focused on serving the needs of business in the region that we serve. We've been profitable every full year since our founding in 1983, and we're quite proud of that, as I'm sure you can imagine. I won't go through every line in this slide, but it is important to us that we approach our industry with honest, upfront information. I know everyone really values that. We do, and certainly something we look for in all of our foundation partners as well, forthright information and upfront direct communication. We are also relationship-oriented. We pride ourselves on being good listeners and delivering high value. We call all of our clients, not customers, because we want a long-term relationship. And that extends also to our foundation partners. We have small portfolios and really work hard to ensure that we have a one-to-one relationship with everyone that we serve. We like the fact that you can call us directly, and that includes everyone, even our CEO. 97% of our clients tell us they're satisfied with their experience with us. And then, of course, something that we can't leave out, we're focused on community service. Each one of our employees receive 40 hours of at-work volunteer time. I know some of you are pricking up your ears with that, and we do definitely encourage you to send over opportunities for volunteer engagement with your organization, because our employees are actually able to do that paid. They also have a chance to receive $500 per year in matching grants based on their participation in community organizations. And we've seen them donate over 1,500 hours just this last year alone. And that is a small percentage of what's actually donated. That's the amount that they just tell us that they've provided to organizations. We can't get them to log every single hour, but we know that they're doing much more than that. Last year, we awarded $130,000 to 15 local nonprofits in 2016. Because of our focus on community service, we've actually been given the moniker Bankers with Heart, and we use that pretty liberally because we love it. We like being bankers with heart. On this slide, you'll see our Rancho Cordova location. That's where I'm talking to you from today. We welcome you to visit our office and just a brief historical timeline so that you get an idea of how we came to be and how we grew through acquisitions and expansion into the region that you saw in this slide, the first slide that covered our area. We can't really skip this slide without talking about the fact that in August of just this year, we surpassed $1 million in total funds raised for the foundation. For an organization of our size, we're quite thrilled to have reached that mark, and we look to continue to expand and grow in our fundraising and then, of course, our community gifting. When you're looking for the foundation resources that we talk about today, everything that we talk about can be located here at americanriverbank.com/foundation. And if you need any additional materials or if there's something that you think would be valuable to place in this location, please don't hesitate to let us know. But this is where we house most of the information that'll be important to you during the grant process. The American River Bank Foundation was founded in 2004, so not the same time as the bank's founding, a little bit later, and has donated over $983,000 to 52 different regional organizations. The platform that you need to recognize, and I think that the key basic foundation here is that in order to apply, your organization needs to do one of the three things that are listed here. Not all three, but one of the three. We're looking to support organizations that create opportunity, enhance self-esteem, and provide physical and emotional well-being for the most vulnerable women and children in the areas that we serve. This organization we are allowed to actually donate 100% of our donations because the foundation is supported in whole by American River Bank, its employees and partners. That means it's all volunteer. So all of the funds that are raised go directly back into the community. Let's look at some key dates for the 2017 grant cycle. September 8th, our grant applications were made available. They are due back, completed by October 6th. Organizations will receive notification on December 31st of those that have received grant awards, and then we will disperse those funds between January and April of 2018. It's important to know that fund usage reports will be expected from all grant recipients, and those will be due July 2nd into 2018. Let's cover eligibility. We've covered this a bit, but it's important to just review so that you can make sure your organization is actually well aligned with an application for the foundation funds. We award grants to strengthen the capacity of local and community-based 501c3 nonprofit organizations. They must be within Sacramento, Sonoma, South Placer, or Amador counties. You can request grant monies for your general operations, so going to your general fund, if your organization's annual budget is less than $1 million, or you can apply for a specific program relating to women and children. If you have been a past grant recipient, you are definitely eligible to reapply. The same is true if you've applied in the past, but you have not received a grant. All of these criteria must be met. So you have to be able to provide proof of your 501c3 status, that you operate in the areas that we just covered, that you have a governing board of directors and executive director responsible for day-to-day management, that your executive office and principal place are located within the geography we listed above, that you are in good financial standing, and that your administrative expenditures are not exceeding 20% of your total budget. And as we referenced in the last slide, and we just don't want to overlook it, your applications do need to be accompanied by that fund usage report for your prior grant award. One important note, if your financial information has changed, so let's say you were a grant recipient before, and you sent the fund usage report to us, but it showed that you had not yet utilized those dollars as they had been planned, but now you have because time has passed, you want to include an updated fund usage report, because certainly you don't want to be applying for funds if you've not utilized the funds that you received the prior year. If you have questions about that, don't hesitate to let me know. It's important that you realize that the organization has 4 key areas in which we look to seek to fund. That is food, shelter, education, and safety. One of the things that's important to note is that the foundation board did give direction to the staff committee that will be reviewing applications And while it's not a directive, they encouraged a split somewhat equitably between these four groupings. So not to be all in organizations that are providing food support or all in organizations that are providing education support. Please do note those areas that we do not fund. I won't go through them individually, but if you identify that your organization is one of these that are listed here, we should talk before you complete the application to make sure that you are eligible and don't fall within one of these restricted areas. I think this graphic here really explains what I think is the number one overarching message I would share with applicants. We welcome proposals from organizations of all different sizes, capacities, and scopes of service. What's important for you to know is that you're applying to an organization run by bankers. You heard that the foundation is supported in whole by our foundation partners, our staff, and our community members. Generally, they're in the financial services sector. So while they love to hear your compelling stories, and let me tell you, they love it, they really want you to demonstrate solid facts that show the impact that you're making in our community. They're bankers, they like numbers, and they like those numbers to be clear and easily understood. So you really want the heart combined with the head. And as you can see, they're friends. Make sure that they dovetail nicely in your presentation so that our team can understand clearly, not only are you doing great work, but that you're showing results and that you're easily able to quantify those. Now that we're talking about the application, let's look at the narrative questions that have been provided. For those who've applied before, you'll see that these questions have changed from the prior years. And that's to really help you answer what are the selection criteria identified in the first pages of the application. So narrative question number one asks, what's your main challenge? This section is where you want to specifically describe your organization, your program, and list out all of the objectives that you seek to serve. You want to clearly explain how your mission ties to that of the foundation and quantify the impact that a grant would have. You can see those qualifying words in there. Specifically describing your organization, list specific objectives. So this means don't be general, be specific and clear. As it lists in the second bullet, clearly explain how your mission ties to that of the foundation. If you're not serving women and children, it's probably not aligning with the mission of the foundation. If you are, state clearly how it does that. This references the selection criteria number one and number two. And it's important that you know what you're answering when you answer this narrative question. Let's talk about narrative question number two. How do you impact our community? This is where, again, you want to explain your organization, but talk specifically about how it's structured and managed. Remember, these are bankers. You want to be following best practices, including clarity of purpose, engagement with the communities that you serve, and show that you have fiscal responsibility and accountability. Include your specifics on how you're contributing to the community, and then describe what other organizations are addressing this issue and if you collaborate. They really like to see collaboration and that you're not needlessly duplicating efforts. On to narrative question number three. How do you define success? We'd like to see here that you tell us how you measure success at your organization or in the specific program. Include those goals, numbers, statistics, and stories that are going to be most compelling. Remember the heart and the head walking hand in hand. This is where that comes into play. Explain what other sources of funding you're seeking, and just note that this is addressing selection criteria number 4, so that we can see that you're actively seeking other sources in addition to the foundation dollars. One additional note about the application, as it relates to the financial information, you'll see on page 1 that those questions reference budget. We'd like you to use the current fiscal year for these figures. If your administrative expenditures are greater than 20% and there's an explanation and something that really has made this an exception, you want to include that. You're welcome to reach out to us in advance of completing the full application if you fall within that category. Additionally, if your government funding percentage is high or there's a changing figure that's to be expected or it's recently changed, provide an explanation here in this section. One thing to remember, prior to final determinations being made, you will be asked to provide these things listed below. So having these ready will speed through the process. Having your latest monthly financial report, audited financial statements, your 990, your 501c3 determination letter, your roster of your board and their professional affiliations, as well as your board donation policy and percentage of participation. We always like to share, excuse me, what we've heard and what we've seen from our top applicants, those that really raise themselves up to the top, and when the committee is reviewing it, are those that are called out most frequently. So here are some things that we've seen people do really well. First, just really clear definition of purpose. Engagement with the communities that they're serving, so really showing in statistics through clear figures how they're engaged, as well as that fiscal responsibility and accountability, with a clear description of your program services and activities, and tied directly to our foundation purpose, again, without creating new programs. We like to see sound planning and management and make sure that the organization is one that's governed in a way that we feel follows best practices. We don't want to see those duplicate efforts out there as well with other organizations. Collaboration always is something that's seen as something that is very favorable in this space. Actively seeking other sources of funding is important, as is quantifying the grant impact. The people that do this really well break it down. For example, X number of dollars per volunteer will allow us to serve X number of more people, which provides X number of return. What's important is if you have a sister organization that's also providing similar information, make sure that you either align or explain the differences in the cost and return on investment with those sister organizations. So if you do the same thing that another group does and you're both applying, but one is saying that it costs $100 to train each volunteer, and the other is saying that it costs $1,000 to train a volunteer, we'd like to understand the differences. Certainly, there may be differences and a reason for it, but it's going to draw questions and delay the process if we don't understand clearly why your sister organization is different than the other. For prior recipients, remember quantifying the impact that grant funds have had, very important. Those that really set the organization apart and what you can do to really take it to that next level is first and foremost having a relationship with the local bank team members in your area and those that are well aligned with the area you serve or with their particular passion. If you need connections to local bank team members, we're happy to provide that. Those who have provided volunteer opportunities in the past may already have bank team members who are on their board or serving in a committee or volunteering with their organization. While that doesn't necessarily mean that you're guaranteed a grant disbursement, it does mean that there's someone internal who will be advocating on your behalf, and it always factors in. Additionally, we have events all throughout the year. All of these events are free or have free volunteer opportunities at them. You can visit those at AmericanRiverBank.com/RSVP. You'll see that we have 4 local mixers that are happening between now into October and November. So make the time if you can, or send one of your staff members so that your organization is top of mind. Again, they're free and they're a great opportunity for you to connect with other potential volunteers or donors. One of the things that really sets an organization apart is that we're always looking for financial literacy course opportunities, places that we can provide financial literacy out into the community. If you have those opportunities, if your audience is one where we could come in and provide an expert to provide that education, either to young people, to those that may be working through adult financial challenges, or those that are mature and working into their retirement years, we are happy to help with this, and it's something we seek to do. So if we can do both of those things with your organization, not only help fund your philanthropic work, but also provide our expertise, we just love that. One of the things we want to make you aware of is that we have bank meeting spaces all over the region. You saw those dots that indicated all of our branch locations, and we'd love to see your groups, your committees, or your volunteer groups utilizing that space. There's no rental fee, but we just love to be engaged and see you actually have that person-to-person relationship. Like we mentioned earlier, we're a relationship bank. And so if that's an opportunity that you can take advantage of, we would really enjoy that, and that sets you apart because, again, you have internal advocates that are used to seeing you and can talk about your organization from the heart. And lastly, your strategic events where local businesses may be in participation or in attendance, we'd like to take a look at those. The earlier you can provide them, along with any fees for sponsorship or participation, the better the chance that they make it onto our list for participation in 2018. Let's look ahead to the grant application review process and how it works inside the bank when you submit your application. What I love about the foundation is that it is completely directed by our employee committee. They review the applications by region. This is new. In the past, our committee has reviewed all of the applications. So our team is reviewing from Sonoma County, Sacramento, and Amador County this year in order to allow for lesser time investment reading applications, but a greater time investment out in the community visiting all of you. They're actually going to review by region. So our Amador team members will review Amador County applications, Sacramento will review Sacramento's, etc. We had a great question on our webinar yesterday, which was, what if my organization serves all 3 of those counties? Those will be reviewed in Sacramento only because that's our largest committee participation. But we're looking for a 1-to-1 ratio for our committee, because the next step is that they make their scoring. Each individual staff member actually uses a scorecard. We then compile all those scorecards and identify our top scoring organizations. And those employee liaisons will go out and visit you. They'll meet with you person to person. They'll request all of those financial documents that I shared with you. Remember, third time, I know I'm saying it again, you're being reviewed by bankers, so they're interested in how you're managing your finances for sure. And they'll come and see you, again, to understand how you're serving the community and hear those compelling stories, but also listen to the facts about how you've been able to impact the organization, how the organization, has been able to impact the communities you serve. Employees then come back together and we make our final recommendations. I'll tell you, this is a passion-filled meeting, and we make those final decisions in each one of those regions. At least that's how it will be done this year. The foundation board hears final recommendations, and the grant decisions are made in December at the December American River Bank Foundation board meeting. We do provide grants between $2,500 and $15,000. We want you to know that we do reserve the right to award grants in a lesser amount than you may have requested, because there's just sometimes not enough money to receive, for every organization to receive exactly what they had asked for. Those organizations that do not use funding for the approved purpose that you stated in your application would be required to reimburse the foundation the full amount. If you might find yourself in that circumstance, you need to just reach out to us. We'll communicate and work through that process together. We'd never want to see an organization have to reimburse the foundation. If for some reason you have a major strategic shift or a problem or a challenge, we'd just like you to reach out to us and we'll work together with you on that. As we covered already, and this is the third time we're covering it again, but it's important for you to know that you will be asked to provide that fund usage report, and that the completion is required for you to be re-eligible for application. At this time, I'd like to move to a chance for you to ask questions that we may not have covered. So I'm going to jump into the question section and give you the opportunity to ask me anything that might be burning on your mind that we didn't cover. Certainly we know we went through most of the information quickly, but we'd love to hear any questions that you might have that we haven't already addressed. I'll read those questions out to the rest of the group on the call and then share the answer for the benefit of the group. I'll give it just a couple of minutes for everyone to jump into that question area and share anything that they may still need to hear from us so we can address any questions you have. So far, we don't have any questions in here. Oh, I see one. Okay, here we go. Can the project focus on women or children, or must it focus on women and children? Excellent question. Thank you so much. The proper terminology is or, certainly not both. And thank you so much for that clarification. Definitely one or the other, or it can be both, but it doesn't have to be both. So excellent question. Thank you so much for sharing that. All of the questions that we've received have actually helped us improve our presentation for future webinar series, and we certainly want to make sure that everyone knows how to apply. And I see some new questions coming in here. Thank you. Hello, what's the best way to develop a relationship with a local bank team member? Wonderful question. I think that this is an area where you'd like to just reach out to myself at the foundation@americanriverbank.com email address and share a little bit about your organization, the area that it serves, and maybe the best way for a banker to support your organization. I had a group yesterday reach out sharing that they're looking for a board member role to be filled. That's a tall order. I would need to, in order to share that out with the organization, I would need to understand the time commitment, any financial commitments that they might have, as well as the location that they'd be engaging. The more information you can give me, the better I can help align you with a team member that would be the right fit. I do share community engagement opportunities per quarter and then on a monthly basis with all of the staff team at American River Bank. So I'm happy to include that. I just need lots of specific information, which helps me help you find the right person. Because if there's a lot of questions, sometimes they just may not have the time to follow up themselves. But if you can share with me time commitment, any financial commitment, where someone can engage or the opportunities that are available and what you're looking for, I can help find staff members who are the right people to connect you with. Excellent question. Thank you so much. Next question. This year, the heading, the most vulnerable women and children, is new to the app, or was that also the direction last year? That has been the mission of the foundation since its inception. That may have just been called out in the webinar more prominently, but that is certainly part of the charter. And the most vulnerable women and children has been, again, part of the organization from the get-go. If you submitted your progress report earlier in the year, do you update it and resubmit it? The answer to that question is yes, if the numbers have changed. We have all of those fund usage reports, but if the numbers have changed, we would ask you to resubmit. Like I said, last year, we had a couple of organizations, because they submitted it early on, they said, oh, we haven't used the funds. We needed to reach out again because, of course, by the time the year had completed, they had used those funds. And so things had changed. If those numbers have changed significantly, definitely resubmit. You don't have to incorporate the fund usage report with your application. We have them. It's appreciated. You can. It's one of those things where it's personal choice if you want to include it, but definitely you must include it if those numbers have changed, because we're going to reach back out to you if you've not actually leveraged the funds you received. Can we get a copy of the slide presentation? Absolutely. Thank you. Great question. We will not only put this on YouTube as a recording where you'll be able to watch the slide presentation and share it with anyone else in your organization, or watch it again for the future year, but we'll also send you the slide deck in an email subsequent, along with a survey so that you can help us improve this for future years. This is the first year trying this, so we're open to your feedback and really appreciate anything you can share with us about improving. Good morning, Erica. Can you repeat what date the progress report is due and for what time period the funding supports? Funding announced in December 2017 and the report due. Excellent question. So we announced December 31st, and then we distribute between January and April of 2018. Those fund usage reports, we check in mid-year. So we check in June and ask for those fund usage reports to be delivered back July 2nd. Like I mentioned, there were a couple of groups that had not been able to utilize the funds yet. You know, if they're getting a check in April and it's earmarked for a program perhaps later in the fall, that's why we want you to resubmit the fund usage report if things have changed. Excellent questions, everyone. I so appreciate your engagement because it helps others understand the best tips on applying and allowing them to put their best foot forward. A couple of last remarks as I wait for any other questions to jump in. I will tell you that we anticipate a larger number of grant disbursements this year, reaching more organizations across the regions that we serve. That's in part due to the fact that the board's direction and guidance to the committee was to seek to balance across those 4 different aspects of the organization: food, shelter, education, and safety. So we do anticipate that in order to meet that encouraged request, we anticipate that we'll be reaching out with fund disbursement to more organizations this coming year. I don't see any additional questions. I'm going to give it just another minute or so for folks to jump in. Oh, and there's one. So we can assume a 12-month project grant period, for example, January 1 to 12/31/18, and that is correct. So when we're dispersing, when we're announcing that that you've received a grant December 31st, the intention is that that disbursement would be utilized somewhere between January and December. Of course, we don't cut checks right away. In the past, what we've done is delivered those checks at one of our community giving events located in your region, which our organizations tend to really appreciate. They get a chance to be in front of our business clients and talk about the organization, and many times have been able to connect with either additional volunteers or donors. So that's generally how we've done it, and we have to schedule those out to not impact staff time too much, so they're not back to back, and they happen in each different region. So we have to allow for our executive team to travel and, of course, with their other bank commitments, spread those out so it's not too taxing and that we can put our full attention to each one of those events. Here's a great new question. Did you mean the amount of money to be given out this year is the same amount as last year, but to more organizations or more money overall? We do anticipate increasing our dollar amount total. We don't have final funding numbers, but we've ramped up donation efforts and fundraising efforts all year. So we are anticipating that we will have a greater amount than 130,000. We raise money up until the very last minute. So we will be seeking foundation board funds at that board meeting in December. So we don't generally have the total amount until the month of December. So I don't have those numbers to give. It's not something that I wouldn't share if I had it, but my early indicators indicate that we are ahead and we're pacing ahead of where we were last year. So both we expect to be true, more money overall and more organizations as well. Again, now I'll give it just another minute or so. I just want to express again how grateful I am for you taking the time. This certainly is an opportunity for me to share with you what I've seen from a best practice standpoint, and I want to do that so that everyone is on a level playing field. You don't need a professional grant writer to provide this report, this application to the organization. Hopefully these tips, though, allow you to be on par with your colleagues in the industry, in the nonprofit industry, so that everyone is answering the same types of questions in a similar fashion, and it's easier for the organization to compare apples to apples. And those organizations that may not have previously included those specific dollar amounts and ROI statistics might now have a reason to do so, and you can kind of know what the team is looking for. I really appreciate, again, your time. Thank you for the thank you comments. I love it. And again, we'll put this up on YouTube. We'll be sending you a survey. Please do fill it out. We always select a few survey respondents to receive a special gift. So don't hesitate to fill that out and share your candid feedback. It always helps us grow and improve because our goal is supporting you. It's such a pleasure to provide the support to community organizations like all of you on the call today. You're doing phenomenal work in the community. We honor and respect all of your efforts. Let us not ever forget to thank you for what you do to grow our community strong, because we couldn't be a strong bank without it. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions.